Welcome to the show. Now please strap in for the truth and remember the words of the great Tom Cruise.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Now welcome to Off Topic on Porn.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, all you OTOP viewers and listeners out there. It's time for another episode, and welcome aboard, and we're glad you're here with us. And once again, it's me and James this evening. James, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope you had a great 4th of July. I know I did.
Well, I surely did. And you can see I got my baseball shirt here, USA. On the back it says America #1, but I'll spare you me turning around. And so, yeah, but we are in the 4th of July weekend. Yesterday was the 4th of July. So whenever y'all see this on Tuesday, you'll know this was a couple of days ago. But it was a good celebration for me. One of the things I got to do yesterday was go to, there's a new movie that was released on the 3rd of July called Young Washington. And I got to go see that yesterday. And James, I got to tell you, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It was very well done.
Really?
And it's very historically accurate and very informative. I mean, that it starts, it's young Washington, so it's not like during the Continental Congress. You don't see anything like that. But it helps inform you about how the man got to be the man he was. This is during the days leading up to and at the beginning of, I believe, the French and Indian Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And so
don't spoil the ending for me. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't tell me
So here's how it ends. No, it's and so but that gives you some historical context for the movie, and it'll be apparent. It'll be plain when you see it that's what it is, and it's just so well produced and well acted. You know, Angel Studios is the one that put that movie out. And I got to tell you, I have been very, very impressed with their work in recent years. They are putting out some of the most quality stuff that is on cinema produced by anybody.
That's awesome. They also produced the Chosen. Do they not?
That's right. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and so a host of other movies, and they get some I guess you could say headliner talent on those movies.
It's fairly decent.
For example, Kelsey Grammer has a significant role in this one, and man, does he do a great job of acting. I am becoming more and more and more a fan of his. He is just really a phenomenal man and a fantastic actor, and very versatile, which he shows in this particular movie. Also, his name escapes me right now, but one of the generals is played by the guy who played Smeagol on Lord of the Rings. So
Andy Serkis?
Yes. Yeah. It looked to me like, and I kept wanting him to say "my precious," well, I'm kidding. I really wasn't looking for him to say that, but it took me a moment to adjust to, hey, this is that guy, and boy, this is an entirely different part. He played a very good part. There's other people that you will recognize, I think, if you go to see it. Really good movie. I can't recommend it highly enough. And this is a great season to go watch it in. And absolutely. I know here in the San Antonio area, it is showing at multiple theaters, so people shouldn't have a hard time scheduling a time at some theater near them if they want to go see it. Of course, it'll be out sometime in the future, probably on Prime and all the other outlets. And then probably you can purchase it on disc too at some point. But I would really go see this one at the theater if you could do it at all. That's you, James, or anybody watching.
Sounds good to me. Because one of the things I wanted to talk about, Russell, with respect to that, is that it seems like this year, this 4th of July in particular, there's not been a lot of love for America this particular holiday season. And you would think 250 years of America, you would think it would be a much bigger celebration. I saw more stuff on the news related to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding at the Madison Square Garden than I did about America's birthday.
Well, you know that's by design. I mean, you're a media man. You would know that better than me.
Sure.
That's by design. It's orchestrated, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of us that are celebrating it. I
Right.
understand that the event in Washington, D.C. was a smashing success. And I got to watch, I had occasion to watch some of the speech last night. It was a really good speech. There was a lot of fireworks. I think actually now that fireworks display yesterday evening is the largest one in history according to the Guinness Book of World Records or something. So
that sounds about right.
yeah,
It should be.
yeah,
Because you know
absolutely.
what, Russell, there's a lot what's good about America. All we
Yeah.
hear in the news today, I hate America, America's terrible. You know, you would think based on American liberals that this was the worst country in the world.
Yeah.
You would think that.
That's
But that couldn't be
what they want.
the furthest from the truth.
That's what they want us to think.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you had some good points at church this past
Yeah.
weekend on the topic of America and the Declaration and the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
Why don't you share for us
Well,
some
I
things
mean,
from that?
well, for one thing, our Constitution is unlike any other constitution on any other continent, any other nation in the world. And I'm just going to say the reason for that is because of the Judeo-Christian ethical underpinnings of the philosophy that led to the production of the Declaration and then eventually of the Constitution. And I tried to point out yesterday that Article 7 actually tethers the Constitution to the Declaration, so you can't really separate the two. One is the product of the other. One produced the other, right? And
Right, exactly.
and so people like to point out, well, you know, the Declaration's one thing, but in the Constitution we don't see very many references to God. We don't see any references to God. Well, which isn't completely true.
Yeah.
Because when you see statements like in the year of our Lord, well, that's hardly an atheistic statement there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's not so overt in the Constitution, but look at what the Constitution is. The Constitution of the United States is a governmental document that is to give guidance to how this government is going to work. And it produces, when this thing is ratified, this Constitution, when it was ratified, it produced the highest law in the land.
Right.
And so it has to deal with things from that perspective, but it's still tethered to the Declaration. And the Declaration has so much political, but also faith-based, Judeo-Christian faith-based commentary and content in it that it is unmistakable. Now, the reason I go there is because, and I mentioned earlier that our republic and our Constitution is unlike any other, and our Declaration, the same thing. The reason I go there is because this could not have been produced by any other faith-based philosophy or ideology but Christianity that came from biblical Judaism. It just couldn't have.
Absolutely.
People can come up with parts of it, maybe in their legal structure and in their social structure, but the idea of that all of us are created equal,
Yes.
that is very unique. And it is
Right.
based on the idea that we are all made in the image of God. And people like to say we're image bearers. That's what a lot of Christians say these days, and I agree with that. And as image bearers, I may bear the image of God, but when I come to you, James, and I see you, you're bearing the image of God too. And it doesn't behoove me to disrespect the image of God in you. I should show respect for the image of God in you. Also, if you think about it from the New Covenant perspective, if you understand that Jesus died for everyone, whether they accept him or not, that still shows, even the people who reject him, it still shows the love that the Lord puts upon them and what his desire is for them. And so once again, if he loved people that much, what is his expectation of me? Well, that I would love them the same way. It's back to the old Jewish adage that defines the law and the prophets, right? You will love the Lord your God with all your mind, heart, soul, and strength. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. You will love your neighbor as yourself. So on these two things hang all the law and the prophets. That truth there is one of the many things drawn from the scripture that help guide what our founders ultimately created when they created the Constitution, and when they actually, it informed them when it came to the Declaration as well.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've been doing some reading on unalienable rights, as the
Yeah.
founding documents say, or inalienable rights, as it says.
It says unalienable in the
in the documents.
actual handwritten
He had
copy.
the actual unalienable.
Yeah.
Yeah, this idea that rights don't come from any government, any law, any statute. They come from God.
Right.
And I think that that's probably the biggest contribution to this country, because despite its flaws, we have this concept of equality. And that's really the underlying ethic that's really, if you think about it, it's the appeal to that ethic is what led to the abolition of slavery, what led to rights to women and marginalized groups. Even someone who's foreign born has rights in America. We're not to abuse that person, if a foreigner came over and bought property in America, and which does happen. I mean, there are foreign investors. That person still has rights. You don't lose your rights based on citizenship, based on skin color, religion, anything. And that's a uniquely Christian concept, but it's also found in the founding documents, in the Declaration of Independence, and it pervades throughout the Constitution, ratified in 1789.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a constitutional scholar, and I don't even know if he's still with us or not. I need to look him up and see if he's still around, but you've probably heard the name of Dr. John Eidsmoe, and he wrote the book Christianity and the Constitution. He also he recorded on a couple of occasions I believe it's 10 lecture series by the same title, on the same topic. And man, I highly recommend people find that. I think it's on YouTube, and just go through the entire thing. If you want a primer on the Constitution, get that book, but also go through the videos, because you can hear him give comments that you don't find in the book, that perspectives and stories and anecdotes that help fill in the gaps, so to speak, and help complete your concept of the Constitution, where it came from, how we arrived at the point, or how the founders arrived at the point where they created such a document. And then what other influences, the Bible had a heavy influence, but would not be correct to say that the Bible was the sole influence on the Constitution and the Declaration. There were
the writings of John Locke, for example.
Yeah, John Locke, who was a Christian, right?
He was a Christian.
I believe Presbyterian, I believe. Then there was the British Magna Carta had some influence.
Oh yeah, the Magna
Viking
Carta,
law
15.
had some forms of Viking law had influence, and there are other things. But here's what I don't want to be lost in my pointing this out. If you consider all those bricks in the wall of what led to our republic, if you take out the Judeo-Christian ethic and concept, that's like removing the foundation stone. And you know what happens to the building when you do that.
Right. It crashed. It falls with a mighty crash.
So we can't, it's not correct to say these things all had equal influence. It just is not. And, there were a couple of deists amongst the founding fathers, not nearly as many as some of the contemporary secularists would have us to believe, but there were a few. The thing that always astounds me, James, is how quickly, especially atheists, are to run to that. Oh, they were deists. This wasn't really a Christian founding. Deism is not the friend of atheism, James.
No, it really isn't. They do believe in God. They don't believe that he has any hand in the affairs of men.
That's
but
right.
Benjamin Franklin did appeal to the sovereignty of God during the Constitutional Convention.
That's correct. And there were about,
deist.
In my readings, I found about 4 different types of deists that were around at the time. Yeah, people like to point out, well, deists think that God just created it and then pulled away and had nothing to do with it. He just it was just a creation that he divested himself of. Well, that is one type of deism. It's not the only type.
Mhm.
There are deists that believe that God has some involvement. And obviously, Ben Franklin was one of those.
Right.
So, and by the way, Thomas Jefferson, I mean, he was not a Christian. That's pretty certain. I mean, he denied the supernatural and things like that. So he was deistic in his perspective as well. And yet he comes into alignment with Christians, and so does Ben Franklin, and so do other deists of the day. They come into alignment when it comes to the wording of our founding documents, because the words were chosen to give it a robust, theological concept as far as theology goes within the framework of the founding documents. And it is one that all people who subscribe to the notion that God is there can embrace. So even Jewish people, James, there were Jewish people in the Revolutionary War, but even before that, there were Jewish people that were a part of the framing, or at least supported the framing, and there were Jewish people who helped finance the war and the initiative once the Declaration of Independence was signed. And so there was one particular financier that I'll probably talk about in one of the coming messages that I have. And he died pretty much a pauper. He was extremely wealthy, but he funded the Revolutionary War along with other people who did. You know, they pledged to themselves their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And some of these guys actually did have to give up some or all of those things. Well, they didn't give their honor up. They increased their honor, but they gave up their lives, some of them. Others gave up their fortunes. And so we'll talk some more about that in the days to come. But that Jewish people, Christian people, and even deists of the day could embrace the idea of providence, and providence having some involvement in the fact that the United States was going to give rise in that world and become a new world power, or become a new governmental power in that reality.
Yeah, I agree. All wonderful things. Yeah, and I think these things have to be pointed out, because I'm not too certain how much school children are learning these things. Even in college, I'm not fully convinced that they learn a lot of these aspects of American history.
No.
No,
I think you're right.
Yeah, too often we learn that the founding fathers were racist. They were slave holders. They did horrible things. They didn't allow women to vote. We ought to sweep them from American history.
Yeah.
We need to remove them from our buildings and change our money, rename military bases, all the kinds of things. Let's purge the white man from the founding of America.
Yeah.
Which is really ridiculous. Quite frankly, quite frankly, un-American, because the very rights that people have to challenge the founding fathers is rooted in the Constitution, the First Amendment. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression.
Mm-hmm.
The people you're blaming gave you those rights, or affirmed those rights, I should say, and maybe not gave those rights, since they are unalienable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Russell, quick question for you. What else do you think America gets right in its 50 years of existence? I think the existence of rights, that's like I already mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, the rights to affirm that which is manifestly already true and should be seen by people, and would be seen by people who take the idea that God is there seriously. Yeah. That's absolutely, but to incorporate that into a governmental document where people are actually invited to live it out. That was so revolutionary, and to this day still is, and that's why this is still called the American experiment. But the American experiment seems to be working despite all of the things that you pointed out a while ago, with people being castigators and so forth, because this nation has grown and grown in strength. Excuse me. I also think, I mean, just look at some of the things that have been forces for good in history. We've got enough people trying to point out areas where America wasn't maybe at her best. But my goodness, what do you do with World War II?
Right.
Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but but World War II, the most fair assessment of it is, had the United States of America not been involved in the conflict, it's likely that the Nazi regime would have won.
Yeah, they would have controlled all of Europe.
Yes. And that's
not
not to be disrespectful to Great Britain, because I think Great Britain was bulldogs about it, and they probably would have decimated the Nazi regime, but they were having a hard time maintaining their own, and there were reasons that the United States was being invited and cajoled into joining in.
Yeah.
Now, the nation that most invited the United States to join was Japan.
Right, December 7th, 1941.
You got it, brother. And that is probably the miscalculation of the century in the 20th century. Mm-hmm. So look, you are just gullible, and there's other adjectives I could use. If you are a person listening to this, watching this, who thinks in any way at all that the involvement of the United States in that conflict did not lead to good, if you think that the Nazi regime and their socialistic and very heinous practices would have been a good thing, it would have been better for all of us had that prevailed, then you're just not honest about reality.
Yeah.
So our involvement in that conflict was a very good thing.
Absolutely.
Look, our economy is the source of blessing for many other economies around the world, James. It's been said many times, and I'll repeat it here: a strong America helps there to be a stronger world, and blesses people. I'll tell you some recent stuff. I think President Trump taking the bull by the horns and doing something in Nigeria was a good thing we did.
I think so too.
Because he's taking on not just Christians being slaughtered, he's taking on people who actually still do slavery. And I know people don't want to hear that today,
I know,
especially not from a white man, but I'm saying it because truth should be spoken by anybody. Amen, brother?
Amen. Amen to that. And I'm glad you mentioned slavery, because it, even though it took the Civil War for the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which outlawed slavery. The fact of the matter is, slavery is still taking place in America and the world in the form of child trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking. There is modern day slavery right here in America, and it's practiced worldwide, and so-called in places like Africa, where there are Muslim groups that are attacking villages and taking people and putting them into slavery. So, I know the white man of the 1800s gets painted as the most vilified individual in the world. But the fact of the matter is, nothing about American slavery is not taking place any other place in the world. Slavery, unfortunately, is a worldwide evil.
Yeah.
Not just a white man's problem, or not just an American's problem. But we dealt with our problem by passing the 13th Amendment.
That's right.
And we still, and to your point about President Bush and the atrocities in Nigeria, we're still doing things about traffickers and slavery. It's still highly illegal. Yes.
And Mr. Homan is doing something about it right now. At least he's trying to as well. It should be made clear that the slavery that's taking place in the United States is not government sanctioned, legally sanctioned slavery. People are flying below the radar to do that. And so it's because they're being fought against that they're having to do that. So So we as a nation still stand against it, and we stand against it around the world. The problem is there are some nations who practice it still in other parts of the world, and there's nothing to stop them. They just do it as a matter of policy.
Sure.
And for some reason, some people here like to ignore that fact, but it's not something that should be ignored. And so, yeah, you're right, James. The United States and first England, under the influence of men like William Wilberforce. There we go.
Yes,
I was getting it backwards. William Wilberforce. And then here in the United States with the abolitionist movement. As far as I know, those are the first times in history that self-imposed ending of slavery actually took place.
That's right. Some people like to talk about Islam, about how I've heard from a Muslim, I guess, friend, associate. He told me that in Iraq, they had African slaves, but because of the advent of Islam, the Africans were accepted as brothers, as equals to the Arabs. And,
okay, so they're co-equal slaves.
No, well, he was claiming that Islam elevated people to the status of equals, as long as you accept Islam, of course.
Are they still slaves?
Well, yes, they are still slaves.
Then you go I'll just tell that. I'll tell whoever the Muslim brother is that says that, go kid your grandmother.
Right. Well,
I know that's crass, but
well, the thing is, I mean, with respect to Islam, any religion that teaches that if you don't accept the religion, you can be enslaved. It is perfectly permissible to kill you, to enslave you, to cause you to pay the whatever the tax is called. I can't recall off the top of my head. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation.
Yeah,
but
I know what you're talking. I forgot the word too, but there is a word for it. It's a tax.
It's a tax. That's paid by people who are maybe they don't have shackles and chains, but if you're required to pay something that's only you because you don't belong to the dominant religion, I would say that's slavery. You're not free.
Yeah.
You're not free to practice your faith and live your life and be free and function, unlike a country like America.
And so this is one of the reasons. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. No, just real briefly. Yeah, Christians and Jews that live in the Middle East historically have been forbidden from sharing their faith. They're forbidden from worshiping freely. They're limited. They don't have freedom of movement like the majority Muslim people. I would say that's slavery.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't see how that can be denied.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's ironic that these same people are coming to America and they are enjoying our freedoms, our freedom of religion.
Yeah.
And they're using that to try to change our laws.
They're using our freedom to destroy our freedom.
Right.
That is not okay.
Yeah, that's not okay. Did you know, I was talking about this with a friend. I went to school with a young person in elementary school. He was Muslim. I remember him clearly praying 5 times a day. Well, the time that I remember praying, throughout school, at different points, Muslims are required to pray 5 times a day. But I always found it odd that Christians were not allowed to pray. Madeleine Mary O'Hare, the atheist, made sure that no Christians, that prayer was not allowed in school.
Yeah.
Unless you're Muslim, then you are allowed to pray in school.
Yeah.
But not Christians.
Yeah.
Christian prayers.
No. I mean, clearly it's anti-Christian bigotry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got to nip this in the bud. We got to protect our freedoms.
It really is something, that we've got this effort in our country right now to try to bring Islam in as a superimposing ideology over the Judeo-Christian ethic and ultimately over our constitutional republic.
Yeah.
We have not been in any kind of a I mean, we will peacefully coexist and we'll even do some trade, but we haven't been in any kind of a real friendship relationship with Islam. I'm not talking about Arab nations and stuff, but Islam itself since the beginning of the Republic, starting with the conflict with the Barbary pirates and moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
There has not been, there may have been treaties and there may have been cool association, but that's as good as it got.
Right.
We have until recently, we have understood what that ideology is, just like from the time of Karl Marx forward, we have understood what Marxist ideology is and what that would mean to our republic if it came in, and how it would corrode and corrupt and undermine and destroy our republic and our freedoms along with it. And until recently, everyone understood that. My generation understood it. All of a sudden, we've got enough young people running around, and I know people, there's some guys I know personally that don't like me saying that, but look, it's not an indictment of all young people, because I know some people from that are millennials and youngers. I have friends and people that I know in my life that are actually quite upstanding. They're intelligent. They are perceptive. A lot of them are good Christian people. So this isn't a blanket, broad brush indictment, but it is the case that this generation has succumbed to the horrific education that has been foisted out to them on social media and in the education system, and they bought into it by and large.
Yeah.
And so this is the first generation that is ignorant enough to not know what the issues are and think that something else is the issue. And they're going to, if they succeed, they're going to destroy themselves. I'm not going to be around.
Yeah.
I'm worried for them, but I'm not worried for me. I'm worried for relatives of mine that are really young.
Mm-hmm.
But that generation will destroy itself before they even realize what happened.
Yeah.
One of the things, James, that people have to watch out for is sitting around being so right all the time. When people get to a point where they're just right and it's all emotive, that is a bad place to be in. You will not make good decisions, and you will not make you'll these people oftentimes say they are concerned about the truth, but they are not people of truth.
Yeah.
And they're not people of principle. Okay. So anyway, that was a foray into maybe an ancillary issue there, but it's very much connected. You know, when we're talking about the 250th birthday of this nation is one of the greatest that God ever made. And we have a really good presidential administration right now who's doing some good things. And yet there are people that are proactively trying to deconstruct people's perception of it and what's actually going on. A lot of these people are Americans, James.
Mm-hmm.
And they are enemies. They are American enemies of America.
Yeah.
And here's what that means practically. That means for guys like you and me, we're their enemies because they've made it so. Now, I pray for them. I hope they come to the Messiah. I hope they get salvation. I hope that they turn in the right direction. But while they stay with that thinking, it is impossible that they will do that. They have to repent and come to a new way of understanding. And unless that happens, they have made themselves the enemy of everybody else.
I agree. The enemy of truth. God
Yes.
help them. But we'll pray for them. But I would say that's why we have the show Off Topic on Point. And there's many other podcasts and various outlets, because we're trying to bring the truth to the American people in a place where people most likely get their information. And that's social media, the internet, podcast, various alternative news outlets, unlike the mainstream media. So the truth has to get out somehow, and this is what we're trying to do with our show, with this show.
Officer Brandon Tatum has a good channel.
Yeah.
So does I forgot his name, but he's the Black Conservative Perspective guy. I think his last name's Foreman.
Yeah.
And there's others out there that Barry Cunningham is a really good one, although he likes to do 3 and 4 hour episodes. But but he is just his messaging is excellent, and there's many others, as you said, there's many others that we could point out. So you're right. I think it is our collective responsibility, and that's part of why we do what we do here on OTOP. So, well, James, unless you've got something else that you wanted to say, I think maybe we need to come to our sponsors and make people aware of them once again. I know regular OTOP watchers and listeners already know about these, but did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, sir. Just happy birthday, America. Don't forget to like
All
and
right.
subscribe.
Looking good, brother. Looking good. Very patriotic. And
Thank you, sir.
we want to remind everybody to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And maybe I'll let James remind you of that again at the end after I get done with our sponsors here. But please do what you can to support the show here, because you're the ones that we rely upon. We rely on God, but we rely on God through his people. And don't forget, you can also email us at otopnow@gmail.com if you want to give us any kind of input. Well, one of our sponsors on Off Topic On Point, James, is Mountain Mowers LLC. And so, folks, if you are in the Tri-County area, they are your local experts for keeping your yard looking its best. Whether it's mowing, trimming, or full lawn care, Mountain Mowers has you covered with reliable service and a personal touch. They know every yard is different, and they treat yours like their own. If you're ready for a lawn that stands out without all the hassle, call Mountain Mowers LLC today at 276-730-8230. Mountain Mowers, we cut grass, not corners. And that's in the Tri-County area there near Galix, Virginia, just to so people here in San Antonio don't go around looking for such a thing. That would be too long of a drive. And then our second sponsor is Ritchie Automotive Repair and Alignment. Ritchie Automotive is a full service garage where you can take your automobile and have pretty much anything done. They are ethical, they are Christian in their comportment, and they will not waste your time or your money. I commend them to you. And so if you need a tune-up or you need some major repair or anything in between, go to Ritchie Automotive. You can find them at 29059 I-10 in Bernie, Texas. And you can call them at 830-755-8550. Ritchie Automotive, we care about you and your car. All right, James, that takes care of the sponsors. And so do you have any closing words for us?
Other than, I would just urge all our listeners, as well as all Americans, please support our country. Please support freedom of speech. Please support freedom of education, freedom of expression. Take advantage of our opportunities and our rights in America. We may not always have them. Let's not take anything for granted. All the good things about our country, let's be appreciative.
Yeah.
We don't have to live here. We could, people, as these Hollywood celebrities are finding out, the ones that move away from America, yeah, they're coming back. Welcome back, Rosie O'Donnell. You realize that living outside this country isn't so great.
That was a sad day. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But, yeah, a lot of that stuff is done to, it's for the optics of it. And some of these people have the money to make those optics happen.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself says something, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Anyway, I can completely concur with you. Let's support our country, folks. And that means do things. Certainly talk to people. Make sure you vote for the right people. And make sure that you do other things, whatever comes your way. Contact your congresspersons. Contact your senators. Do anything you can to help either support the good and the right or to move it forward. All right, James. Well, that's about it for another episode of Off Topic On Point. And so remember, folks, you don't have to be on topic. You can be off topic, and that's why we have the title. But then if you are, don't forget, you still should always be on point. So see you next time. God bless. James, see you again.
Thank you, Russell.